Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Serving Nerve, where we talk about whatever we want, and today we're going to be going through more fat acceptance cringe compilations. So let's just get to it. The comment here says, obesity isn't healthy, accepting it is wrong.
I can understand why people think this because it's what we've been taught and it's rarely challenged. But what I'm saying is, having a BMI over 30 does not automatically make you unhealthy. According to the National Health and Nutrition Survey, nearly half of overweight individuals and nearly a third of people with a BMI over 30 are completely free of any cardiometabolic conditions.
You know what I have to point out? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to point out somebody else was talking about this and they were even complaining about this being an inaccurate kind of assessment because it doesn't go into anything about like different races. It was all about like, I think just white men or something like that. But also, bypassing that, yeah, okay, great. But like also, that doesn't mean obesity is healthy. The thing I have to point out here is when we take an assessment of a group of people and we take like an average and we look at like, oh, well, this many people in this BMI range didn't have these disorders like cardiometabolic disease or something like that. And the average BMI for that threshold was 30. Anything above that, it starts becoming worse and worse, anything above that. And below that, it starts getting better and better. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody else was complaining about this in another compilation and how it didn't calculate for other races, and it also lacked a series of other variables. It perpetuates that there might be a lack of information and interpretation on the data. So I just need to point that out. We're going to continue, but I'm just going to point it out. It's difficult to assess what BMI will be the most harmful for you, but when we start going above 30 and we get into 40 and we get into 50, it's indicatively bad. And it also depends on how long you've been obese. These issues actually do grow over a course of time, not just weight as well. So if you've been obese for like a year, then it might not be as bad as somebody being obese for 10 years. It's very difficult to gauge. I'm trying to give a little grace here because I appreciate sometimes when they put out the data, but I always see a very inaccurate perception of the data. And we do commonly know that obesity and morbid obesity can increase your risk for metabolic disease, heart disease, cancer, prediabetes, diabetes, and not even just that, but joint issues. So I'm just trying to give a little grace here. Some of it's not going to be that bad when it comes to you being a BMI 30. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe nothing will happen for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. You never know. But then we start getting beyond that scope, and also we start having more complications later in life. Are we looking at age? What are we eating? You know, there's a lot of variables that go into that. So I'm just trying to make it clear. We look at a little bit of information, we get a study, but we shouldn't just like go like, oh, well, this just means that all obesity is okay. I'm just saying, my people, there's a balance here, okay? I'm hoping that we find it. I'm not here to act like this study's wrong, but I don't think it's quite right with how they're perceiving it.
In other words, by lumping everybody into these BMI groups, we're misdiagnosing a significant portion of the population. Now, I know what you're thinking. That still leaves up to 2/3 of those people who are above normal weight with cardiometabolic conditions. But guess what? In that same study, 2/3 of normal weight people were considered cardiometabolically unhealthy too. So what do you think? Should we keep systematically misdiagnosing people as diseased purely based on their body size and literally nothing else?
Okay, obesity can be a biomarker for having inadequate consumption and usually overconsumption of hyperprocessed unhealthy foods that can relate themselves to certain metabolic diseases. So yeah, we should be taking obesity into account. Saying that, also at a normal weight, you can be super unhealthy if you also involve yourself with eating unhealthily, not exercising, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, doing other things. It's not to make an argument to say, oh, everybody under a BMI of 30 is healthy. That's not true. It's not to say that everybody under a BMI of 30 is healthy. It's just to say that obesity is a biomarker for potential metabolic disease and early death. Like, it's not that deep, dude.
On the other hand, let's just say that being fat does make you unhealthy, and so much that it would render somebody disabled. Are you saying that people with disabilities are not entitled to the same basic human rights as you? Are you saying that they should continue facing discrimination at the doctor, in public transportation, in the job market, and access to housing? I hear you say that accepting people with a BMI over 30 is wrong, but what do you suggest we do about it? Should we
lose weight? That's it. Just lose weight. I mean, also, I'm not here to promote that people like get discriminated against on the basis of their body weight, but you do choose to be disabled through obesity. You choose, by the way, to have a physical disability if it's created through your obesity by being obese and not making a change, a lifestyle change for the better. Now, saying that, employers will discriminate against you, whether you're fat or you're not, whether you're short, whether you're tall, whether you're skinny, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man. They will just pick and choose what looks best. And I know this, and a bunch of other people know this. Trust me. Like, I work in the restaurant industry where it's very physically, like, particular. There are certain restaurants, they only want you to be like a 5'2" chick like I dealt with. There are also certain restaurants that only want men to be the servers because they're more like, sexy. Hooters is a great example of also, a little bit to honk. You ever been to Moxie's? It's the same kind of game, my dudes. Trust me, you want certain looks, you want a certain vibe, and you can say it's discriminant, but it is what it is. And it's not just for fat people, I have to point this out. It's not to justify it, it's just to say, this is one group of people in a sea of people who get fucked. And then on top of that, when it comes to medical misconduct, there are certain machines and certain equipment and certain assessments that cannot be made or used for obese people who are like super morbidly obese. So again, it just depends. What are we looking at here? Because there's all these generalizations on like these industries. Oh, employers. Oh, medical communities. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this statistic, this study, blah, blah. But we're not actually looking on an individualized basis at what these people are saying, what is happening, what people are doing. And I'm not even here to make a justification in any regard. I'm just here to point out it's a little bit more particular and individualized than that. So when we make these generalizations, it just doesn't actually scale properly with what people are generally experiencing on a day-to-day basis as individuals. So I really want to make that clear because with all this fat acceptance stuff and all this stuff about there being a community, an entire group of people, we're losing track of the fact that these are all individuals with individualized experiences, different body types, different circumstances, different medical issues, different disabilities, self-imposed or not, different situations for themselves, different work ethics, different lifestyles, different locations, geographically. So these are all variables that you have to take into account when you look at the big picture here, and then we're just generalizing. So I don't think it really scales well, and I just need to point that out.
Publicly shame them and further stigmatize body fat because that's what we've been doing for decades and it has not worked. Weight stigma alone is an independent factor for high blood pressure, chronic inflammation, stress markers, A1C, metabolic syndrome, depression, anxiety, type 2 diabetes, and an increased risk of mortality.
So we just threw in two mental issues with a bunch of medical issues. Anxiety and depression can be indiscriminate of body weight. Sure, you can say it's an association based on maybe dietary patterns, eating disorders, emotional eating, self-abusive behavioral patterns, etc. But the other things are like medical issues that are oftentimes perpetuated through morbid obesity. So yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Like, we shouldn't be mixing those two together. On the basis of mental and physical, they're two different things, sometimes linked together, to be honest, because diet does have a lot to do with depression and anxiety, and also your gut microbiome in this equation matters. But to make a point, when we lump these two things in together and we're saying, oh, it's stereotype, it's not stereotype, dude. It's like a basic medical assessment of circumstance. So, I don't know, man. I think this is just kind of crazy.
Being fat does not make someone unhealthy. Systematic anti-fat bias and weight discrimination does.
Bruh. Being fat can make you unhealthy, bruh. Being fat can make you unhealthy. You're doing unhealthy things to become fat. Like, it's not that deep. It is not that deep. Why are we balls deep in the not deepness? Come on now, man.
Eating a day as a fat boy part 2.
So he's eating food. Rabbit food. What a vibe. I love my rabbit food. Give me a vegetable, particularly a phallically shaped one, any day. I don't care if it's for rabbits, I'll eat it. I feel like it's kind of enabling if your mom sees how big you are. Maybe she's very ignorant towards the matter, but I feel like if your mom is giving you like her food when she already sees that you're eating all this food, I think it might play into enabling. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of people who deal with obesity or other abusive behavioral patterns like severe morbid obesity, they kind of play into it by enabling the circumstances. And again, I think these people are kind of proving my point. Like, I rarely ever will see anybody eating a healthy kind of diet when they're super morbidly obese. It's always an excess, an incredible excess of hyper-processed food, oftentimes fast food, eaten out. It's never like a healthy pattern of consumption. This guy just ate 3 Subway sandwiches with a bunch of other stuff, Doritos, all that stuff, and that was after he ate a bunch of other things. So it's like, again, like, this is not a balanced way of living. It's not a healthy way of living. And I think that people have a very delusional perspective on the basis of thinking I can be healthy at any size, but I can eat this way. A glizzy. Jesus Christ. You don't have to point out I actually made oven french fries last night. So good. I'm gonna go make more tonight. I have to go to work soon, but I really, really, really want some fries. I basically do it where I just take a bunch of potatoes. I have russet right now. It's a total vibe. Cut them up. I also been putting Japanese sweet potatoes in the mix as well. And a little bit of kabocha squash. Basically like whatever I've got in the house that's a tuber. Chop that stuff up. Toss it with a bunch of olive oil and salt. Roast it for about 45 minutes at 375 to 385 degrees, depending on how lazy I am or how fast I want it or how crispy I want it. And I've been like pounding those. I ate like a whole tray of them. Like no shade, dudes. Like I'm down for people eating a lot of food. I just think we should make healthier life decisions. Like if you saw what I ate on a common basis, you would not be, you'd be a little shook. You would be a little shook on what I put inside of me on a daily basis. But the reality is, I endeavor for it to be healthy, which is why I'm not in the shoes of this man. The very morbidly obese shoes of this man. So anyways, my people, that was the video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. And actually, if you were once morbidly obese and have now made lifestyle changes, what did you used to eat versus what you eat now? Or if you're obese, what do you eat? Or if you're not obese, what do you eat? What do you guys eat on a daily basis, average-wise? Because I personally eat quite a lot, and I also drink a lot. But saying that, we're cutting down, we're being a good baby bop. Don't want to be a train wreck too much these days, you know, trying to be an adult. If you've gone through weight loss, what did you eat when you were overweight or obese? And what do you eat now? And also, just in general, if you are overweight, what do you eat? If you're underweight, what do you eat? If you're normal weight, what do you eat? What do you guys eat? Personally, I eat a lot. I've been thinking of doing what I eat in a day to kind of break down some of what I eat. But there are days where I'm just so inconsistent with my eating. I'm like, I don't know if this would even be a good what I eat in a day. So I'm kind of waiting on it to pick out a good day for the matter. But yeah, anyways, tell me what you think in the comments below, my people, and I hope you all enjoyed. It has been lovely, and I'll see you next time. Slater.